Hello, everybody. I'm Dawn Marie Lemons, and so happy to see you. It's so lovely to see so many people facing time zones and schedules and life and joining us for an hour and a half. If you could please put your name and your affiliation. I know some of my church friends are here as well, and Soroptimist friends are here, and we're going to have people from other visitors as well. This is an important topic, and we did some wide release of the information. So if in the chat box, if you could put your name and your affiliation and where you're from, that would be awesome because we really want to keep you as part of our neighborhood. We're going to give people a few minutes to arrive and then not start too late because we've got amazing speakers and I want to spend the time with them tonight. So far, it appears that we have visitors from as far east as Deborah. I never remember what state you're from. Is that Washington, D.C. or um, and we have friends from all over California, from several different regions, Soroptimist regions. So this is sponsored by Soroptimists, and it is an event though that should appeal to anybody, whether you're a Soroptimist or not, if you're interested in learning about online safety, online awareness. We have some region governor leaders. We have some church leaders from the California Pacific Methodist area. Um, we have one lovely man. And the training we just did with No More, Do Better, it was so lovely to have some of the trainers be young men, because the only way we're going to deal with any parts of this human trafficking issue is by having men and women at the table and part of the conversation. So we're particularly happy that you joined us tonight as being part of the advocate for this issue.
And I just saw rolling
Okay.
by is Sue, our president of Soroptimist International of the Americas, Sue Riney from Oak Harbor in Washington State has joined us as well. So didn't want to be remiss in not acknowledging our gratitude for Sue to have taken the time to meet here with us tonight. So welcome, Sue,
Absolutely.
and anyone else from the Pacific Northwest.
Absolutely. Um, I think I'm going to get started because I really do want the time for our speakers. This is our fifth annual January webinar event, and our group is modeled after an organization that started over 10 years ago in San Diego, which was a coalition down in San Diego County for one county called Soroptimists Together Against Trafficking. And about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, my friend uh, uh, Mary and I, we were doing trafficking awareness kinds of things with the local Orange County Human Trafficking Task Force, and people were saying, "Well, why don't we do one in Orange County?" And so we started to do one in Orange County, and people said, "Well, what about LA County? And what about Ventura County? And what about all these other counties?" And we thought, you know what? This is a coalition where our mission is really to get the word out and to do it in our different neighborhoods, but also to support each other, to learn from each other, to share ideas together, and to bring our different neighborhoods in, like our church neighborhoods, our school neighborhoods, our local task forces, and so forth. Our mission is to educate, support, provide, and advocate. And our real goal is to support the local task forces and be a part of their support group, because we know we're not human. We're Soroptimist International is not a trafficking organization. That is one of our missions, obviously. But we do have something you'll hear about it very exciting tonight about a grant program that we do individually, and then we do this webinar each year. And each year we choose a different theme. So last year we worked on labor trafficking, and that was really, really important to know because it's kind of not something that we've had a lot of information about with Soroptimist. But this year, online safety just has been burning in our hearts as far as something that we've got to help people understand the importance of it and how as individual citizens we can take part of the communication and the advocacy and the action on. So we're really happy you've joined us. And you're going to see how different ways or organizations work together. You're going to see four different perspectives on online safety, and I'm just really excited that we have this wonderful panel tonight. Our panel chair is Susan Gilby, and she's actually the co-chair of Soroptimists Together Against Trafficking too. So I'm going to hand it over to her and let's get started. I think just one thing, how many people do we have so far at this event? Terry, can you give us that? Anybody?
Yes, we have 71 people, excuse me.
Wonderful.
And if you could put your names and who you're affiliated with, whether it's Soroptimist Club or not, and also your email in there, we would appreciate it. We promise we won't try to sell you insurance.
Okay, Susan,
Thank
take it
you,
away.
Dawn. We have an amazing panel, as Dawn said, and they're all experts in their field. We're going to start with Natalie Salinas from A21, who's our first speaker, but I'd like to also introduce Kendra Tankersley Davis, who's an adjunct professor at Vanguard University, Global Center for Women and Justice. Happy Medina, former police officer and educator in the field of human trafficking and prevention, and Jenna McKaye, who's a survivor and founder and now movie producer or something. We're going to hear exciting news about that a little bit later. We're monitoring the chat, so if you have any questions that strike you as you're listening to our presenters, please feel free to put your questions in the chat so that we can have a little bit of a review by our experts a little bit later on. But we want to start with our guests, and our first guest, Natalie, is the U.S. Mobilization Coordinator for A21, where she leads national efforts to mobilize communities in the fight against human trafficking. With a passion for empowerment and education, she equips and trains volunteers, partners, churches, and community leaders to bring A21's awareness, prevention, and outreach initiatives to their cities. Known for her collaborative leadership style, Natalie works alongside local communities to strengthen their capacity, provide strategic coaching, and build sustainable programs that create real impact. Her commitment is rooted in her belief that when people are informed, equipped, and united, they can transform their cities and protect the vulnerable. Welcome, Natalie. So if I could ask you a first question to begin our discussion tonight, can you level set for us what the crime of human trafficking looks like today?
Definitely. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be on this call with all of you, and love to see so many people that are engaged and want to be engaged in this conversation. I think that, just to kind of give a good foundation, understanding of what human trafficking is really helpful to kind of start off with. So it is the illegal trade of human beings, for whether it's the use of their body or for labor, and it's through force, fraud, or coercion. And so that's really important to know and to understand. And we definitely see human trafficking happening in every state here in the US, in every major city. We're not exempt from it. And, as some of us may know, we go out into communities, and a lot of times there's a disconnect for a lot of people here in the US of thinking that this is something that just happens in other countries or overseas. And it couldn't be farther from the truth. We're seeing it in our local communities. We're seeing it in our schools and neighborhoods, businesses, and so it's really important to be able to grasp a deeper understanding of what we're going to talk about tonight, and that is the online child exploitation. Um, Currently, there's an estimated 50 million people who are victims of trafficking across the world, whether that's sex, labor, or online exploitation. And 1 in 4 of those 50 million are children. I think, an assumption and a stat that we see is that 54% are said to be women and girls, but let's not forget that means that 46% are men and boys. So no one is exempt. It's not always just, the lost girl who finds herself in a compromising situation. This affects everyone. And so, human trafficking overall, it's said to bring in $236 billion each year. It's bringing in tons of money. And the reason why this crime is growing at such a rapid pace is because you can sell a weapon or a drug and you sell it one time. But when you're selling a human being, as long as you maintain control of that human being, you can sell that human being as many times as you want to. And I think that is why it's bringing in so much more money than a lot of these other crimes that we're seeing. I always like to communicate, though, these are stats that are public stats, but this is a crime hidden in plain sight. And so if it's hidden in plain sight and it's happening all in across the US and across the world, that means that these numbers and these stats are only based off of what we know, right? And so the assumption is that the numbers that I shared with you are actually far greater than what the stats are. So that's important to understand, is that we can only identify these stats based off of reports that are called into the hotlines, cases that are opened, and there's a lot that we don't know. So um, we understand that number is significantly higher.
So A21 was established in 2008 in order to combat human trafficking. Can you share A21's campaign, the A21 campaign's overarching goal, and how it partners with other organizations to increase their impact?
Definitely. So we are getting ready to celebrate our 18th anniversary, where we are officially going to be an adult organization, reaching 18 years. Mission. And our mission is to abolish human trafficking everywhere, forever. We do this through reaching vulnerable populations through awareness, prevention, and education programs and resources. We also partner with law enforcement and authorities to recover victims, and work to the conviction of human traffickers through programs that we have, like hotlines, child advocacy centers, victim identification training, and offering legal support. And then lastly, we work to empower survivors of human trafficking, understanding that each one has their unique journey toward restoration and independence. And we do that through our programs, offering a holistic aftercare program, safe accommodations, and relocation services. And so specifically, uh, we really value that partnership in everything that we do, whether it's through how we reach communities, whether it's how we come alongside and recover victims, or the process of restoration. We understand that this is uh, an issue where we're really going to see effective change if we all work together. And so a huge part of the work that we do cannot be done without the partners that we do it with in each of these local cities.
So moving back closer to home, we all hear about the time that youngsters spend, how they're living online, and how social and other electronic media are being used as a primary vehicle to recruit, entrap, and exploit young people. In fact, subject matter experts forecast that the greater access to AI will exponentially increase this online predation. A21 has recently responded by launching the Global Freedom Summit. Before we take a look at the trailer, please check your volume on your computer to make sure it's turned up so that you can hear the whole thing. So Terry, can we take a look at the trailer, please? Terry, can you get us some sound? Are you working on it, Terry, for us?
While she's working on it, I can talk a little bit about it if that's
If you wouldn't
helpful.
mind, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Definitely. So, over the last several years, our team has been working diligently to be in the front lines of providing and building out prevention resources and tools, and also working with legislation in different countries to be able to help offer more safeguarding online. We understand that this is a growing issue of online exploitation, specifically of kids. And so if you're not familiar with online exploitation, it really covers a range of illicit activities, including the creation, distribution, and possession of child sexual abuse images through sextortion, grooming, enticing children online. And so this is definitely a hard conversation, but a very important conversation to have. And, I'm a parent of, I have two kids, one is a teenager. And so we're kind of in the thick of learning, what it looks like to be safe online. They're spending so much time online. And so what we did is we created this film in order to help local communities get a deeper understanding of what the problem is and then how to safeguard their own families. And so we've done that through this film. And I can talk a little bit more about it.
I think I'm ready. I think
All
I'm
right,
good.
Terry.
Yep. Okay.
Get it, Terry. Thank you.
Keep your fingers crossed.
Bars tonight. Experts say it takes predators just 8 minutes to form a bond with a child.
In just the past few years, reports of online abuse have surged by more than 300%.
It's evolving every day.
It's a global crisis hiding in plain sight.
And it's targeting the most vulnerable, our kids.
The internet has no borders.
All around the world, people will gather online or in person for a powerful 1-hour visual presentation. You're going to hear true stories. You'll see how trafficking works today, and you'll discover practical ways to protect the vulnerable and to respond with hope.
Watch it together with your school, your church, your workplace.
When thousands of us take small, intentional steps together, we create a movement where every child grows up informed, empowered, and free.
I've seen what happens when ordinary people show up and take action. Register today and let's end online child exploitation everywhere, forever.
So online child sexual exploitation and human trafficking, they are deeply interconnected and often overlap in ways that can fuel each other. And so we really wanted to provide a tool that helps people gain a deeper understanding of what it is, but then also What are organizations and government entities doing about it? We actually partnered with NCMEC with this film, which is the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children. And they're on this film talking about what are some efforts that they're working on that to continue to offer additional safeguarding tools and services to be able to provide for families. But this is what Global Freedom Summit is about raising awareness, educating local communities, and acknowledging that this is a rising trend. And so this is an opportunity for anybody, no matter your sphere of influence, is everybody can be a part of this and part of the solution, right? And so what you can do is you can actually go on our website and you can register to host a screening. And like it said in the video, you can play this in the comfort of your home and invite some neighbors over. You can do it with your family. You can do it at your local church or maybe a local business. I've seen businesses do lunch and learns, and do it during the business day. Local communities, community groups. We've seen so much impact, and we launched this film in October 2025. And we've seen so far 870 screenings take place in 85 countries. So thousands have already been impacted by this film. And when you register to host this film, we send a host kit with different tools, and then we also send you the video that you can download and share it. So this is just another free resource. Our heart is to give everything away, another free resource in a way that we can equip local communities. I think it's important to also note that this film is appropriate for kids ages 13 and up. This is not like overly sensationalized content. We're not trying to like scare people. There's already enough to be scared about, right? But this is something that we felt like this is appropriate for those teenage years, junior high going into high school, as well as college and adults. So if you have any questions, or are interested in hosting and maybe want to chat through what it could look like for you, feel free to shoot me an email. I put my email address here in the chat, and I'd be happy to navigate what that could look like for you and your community and offer that support. But thank you so much for having me. Just looking forward to hearing the rest of the speakers and gaining additional information.
Thank you, Natalie. I think this film opportunity is one that many of us will engage with. It's custom made for us to go out and help our communities understand that this is not something that happens only to disadvantaged kids. It's happening in our kids' bedrooms. So I thank you, and I know that there'll be some excited people to contact you, and we will make sure that we'll have this resource available, so you don't need to worry if you've missed it in the chat. We'll get it out to the attendees. So our next guest is Kendra Tankersley Davis. Kendra has dedicated more than 20 years to working with at-risk children, adolescents, and families impacted by complex mental health systems. For over 18 years, she has worked in the area of human trafficking, supporting survivors in transitioning out of exploitation, providing advocacy, educating communities, and teaching prevention strategies. Kendra has contributed to course and program development in the areas of human trafficking, parenting, working with at-risk youth, and family violence. She has presented, facilitated at-risk youth and facilitated trainings, and served as a panelist for a wide range of organizations. Kendra holds a master's degree in family and human development, has served in nonprofit executive leadership roles, and is currently an adjunct professor at Vanguard University. Most recently, she was nominated as a 2025 Los Angeles County Inspirational Woman in Leadership. Welcome, Kendra.
Thank you. I am so excited to be here. And thank you for Soroptimists just always does well for the community. They just always do well. So thank you so much. It's an honor to be here with all of you, with my panelists, and with the 80 people in attendance. So thank you. So I have been tasked to have a conversation, which I like. I didn't have to do a PowerPoint because I think just having conversations is where you really get to kind of the nitty-gritty of what's going on. And so it was so interesting. I hope you can see it. Last week, I got one of these in the mail. Some may not know what this is, but it is the Yellow Pages. And I can remember back in the day, my mom, this is where we got information. You wanted someone to repair something in your home, you had to research and use the Yellow Pages. It used to be significantly larger than this. But when it came, my daughter's 24 and she asked me, what was this? Like, what do you do with this? And I explained it to her. This has been replaced by this. And it allows us to gain access to so much. I have 15 minutes. I'm timing it on the phone. I'm not looking at the clock. It's going to tell me when to stop. Computers, digital world, all technology has made our lives significantly easier. We have to be honest. It took a lot of time to look for a plumber going through this very small rain. But through here, I could have it in 2 seconds.
Right.
You get vast information so quick and hope it's accurate, but it's come to the point we're so reliant on technology. I don't even know if people check its accuracy anymore with what it's giving you. And so if we as adults rely on this a lot, I love to cook. I find all kind of fun recipes on my phone. I don't go to my cookbooks. I'll go to my phone or to my laptop. Everything is quick, fast, and immediate. There's no time that you even need to think about what you're looking at. You don't even have to put the full sentence in. You can just put a concept or an idea and you have what you're looking for or close to it. As adults, we have a little bit of a way to sort through. We might sort through and look at what really kind of focus and read what we're looking at. How many times or how much do we think children do that? They don't. It's quick, it's there, let's go. And everything, again, for them is right now and quick. Kids don't really have to wait for anything anymore. It's so fast. And so that's the age that we're living in. We're living in an age of rapid and instant and scary. We parents, grandparents, anyone who's affiliated with a kid, educators, we teach children stranger danger. Don't talk to this stranger. You don't know this person. Read your instincts. But through technology, we invite the strangers in our home when you really, really think about it. We invite them in our home. How many of us, let's say a kid in our lives has asked a question, we tell them to Google it. You know what? I don't know. Google it. We're inviting that in our homes. When we're purchasing video games that allow interaction with others we don't know, we're inviting that person into our home. When you FaceTime, you're inviting that person where you are. So we have to really think about what's happening. I used to work at a group home, and when they allowed them to have phones, a lot of the girls had been trafficked, and they would walk around like this, that they'd be talking to the trafficker. Oh, show me what you have on. What he was doing was seeing who was in the room, who was the person he was going to scout out and try to get you to bring to him next. Their brains don't think about that. It's not developed that far. The brain does not stop developing until age 25. They're still learning and growing. And so I think about this when I was putting this together, I was like, wow, what is it that's really happening that I see happening in the kids I've worked with? And what do I see caregivers, and I include a caregiver as a parent, grandparent, anyone who has influence in a child's lives, what are they doing? And so today, our kids are bombarded with images and likenesses and information that we may not even know about a lot of the times. I can remember when this 6'7" thing came out, I didn't know what that was about. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know it was a number to me. I allow space for them to teach me. Some kid somewhere did this and said 6, 7, and it went viral, and everyone else is doing it. And as adults, we're late to the game. So if that's something that simple, imagine the other things that they're seeing and that's going on. And so, how do we find out? What do we know? So, before we even consider taking steps to prevent, I want to give you a little bit of information about what's happening now. Think about and how this works. So, people who know me know I love shopping and I love shoes. I will use my phone when I'm sitting watching TV to look up shoes. It changed my whole algorithm. I looked up one shoe because I wanted to see if it was on sale. Everything in my Instagram feed, even in emails, I get so much stuff about the brand of shoes I was looking at. It changed the algorithm. So imagine a child looking up something, and a child for me can be an adolescent, a youth, I'll use the word youth, looking up something. That's going to change their algorithm. I am bombarded with ads for the shoes I was looking up, and it coerced me to buy them. I'm an adult. I know I shouldn't do it, but I see the sale and I'm like, oh, I'm going to buy it. What happens with that kid? And I actually had this happen. It happened to me. I was looking up cheerleading activity for a kid I was working with and in their community. It put the city cheerleading because that was their area of interest. And I think getting kids involved in sports or any positive activity is a really great way to keep them busy and to keep them motivated and focused on doing well. And I was blown away by what came up. It wasn't the cheerleading I thought, it was pornography. I'm an adult, I could shut that down real quick. But if I was a kid who was curious, is that something I would do? And now, that was 10 years ago, 20 years. Now it's going to change my algorithm and it's going to start sending me that information, that pornography that I didn't initially ask for. It will start sending it. And so we have to be mindful of that. Not all the time is what kids are gathering, is it intentional? So we have to be careful of that. So, and then it's also important, we live in a world, in a community that is very much over sexualized. If you want to know, go into a store and look at clothes for smaller kids. It's over sexualized. The music they listen to, the images that they see in music videos and movies, etc. And so, if a kid starts getting some of that information accidentally, is it the norm to them or is it something uncomfortable? We tell kids all the time, don't send nudes. Don't do that. If someone asks you for that, that's an inappropriate thing to do. That's an inappropriate request. They're not respecting your boundaries. Yet kids still do it anyway. And that not all kids, but some kids are still doing that because they get caught up in what everyone else is doing or the thought process of what they see. Or I really like this person and this is what they asked me for. And so we work very hard and diligently to teach them to do something different, but yet it still happens. This is why it becomes extremely important for us to learn some of the tactics that traffickers are using. We had a big event, two big events in Orange County within this last week, teaching anti-trafficking prevention. And one of the things that surprised me on Monday was the majority of the kids in the room thought you were kidnapped into trafficking. That was the number one answer. It was over 600 kids in the room. We've got to do a better job of communicating that that's not it. Traffickers will find you on video games. They will find you because they see that vulnerability of you wanting to be loved and desired. How much information do kids and people in a whole put on social media, put into emails, put into communications, technological communications, because they're sharing information. And often they don't know who they're sharing information with, or they are sharing it with a friend who they do know. But what happens when that relationship ends and they take that information and share it with others? What happens when you're in a relationship with this boyfriend and he ends the relationship? Then what happens? And so we have to be able to have conversations with our kids about what's happening in the real world. And you have to use real language. You have to use real communication, and you have to say, be honest with the communication. So, one of the things I want to share with you, oh, good question, Dawn Marie. A lot of parents I work with, they're afraid to have conversations with their kids. I don't understand where this comes from. I don't, but they do. They feel as if their kid is the one sort of, it's almost like the roles have shifted, the kid's in control. You have to have conversations. And the reality is, you can't stop having conversations. And if it's something you don't, I didn't know, my daughter set up my Instagram. I didn't know anything about it. So here are some techniques that you can use. One, allow them to teach you. Allow the kid to teach you how to play that video game, how to use that social media. Ask questions. Hey, what does 6-7 mean? What does this mean? What does that mean? When you're doing that, that kid feels empowered because they're teaching you, but you're building a relationship and a foundation to exchange information. Follow. I don't understand this either. Follow the child in your life on social media. Yes, they can set up a second, but I tell you this, traffickers who know a kid is being watched, loved, followed, there is an adult around who is present, that is the child they don't want. It is too hard to get them. If you have a child in your life who's a gamer and they are really into video games, sit there and be their cheerleader and cheer them on. Because if you're present in the room and you're loud enough, whoever they're playing with hears you. So that they know that child alone. Talk about strangers and the dangers that are out there. Share stories of real stories of reality and things that happen. Sextortion is huge now. Share the story of Jordan DeMay, the 17-year-old young man who thought he was talking to a beautiful adolescent girl who was interested in him and he sent a picture because she sent a picture. And in reality, it was two men in Nigeria who began to blackmail him. Within 6 hours of the blackmailing started, Jordan ended his life. The numbers, the statistics of children ending their life or attempting to end their life as a result of sextortion are astronomical. You have to talk to your children about the dangers of it. If somebody cares about you, they're not going to ask you to send a picture, an inappropriate picture of yourself. You can also say, hey, would you send that picture to your grandmother? Grandparents, aunts, uncles, family members who are safe play such a key role in assisting you in building your village to support the child in your life. That becomes really important. Talk about pornography, the dangers of it, the implications of it. Talk about the dangers of sending pictures that are inappropriate. In 2024, Beverly Vista Middle School in Beverly Hills, California, some students there took your basic school book, school picture, used AI to put it on a nude body and sent the pictures out. That's pornography. To students girls in the school had no idea this had been done. This is harmful and this is devastating. When you're talking to the kids in your life, do you know who their friends are? Do you know the friends' parents? Do you know their social circle? Do you know what interests the child? You don't have to be the parent to know this. Grandparents have such an influential piece in a child's life. Aunts and uncles, they really help shape what that child is going to be and how they see the world. Are you allowing your values, your beliefs, your faith, your dreams for your child? Are you impeding it on them? Because if you are, that can help create a space of judgment, which breaks the boundaries of that child wanting to talk to you. And the number one thing you need is that child to talk to you. And something else that I'm seeing a big shift in with parenting is lack of structure. I've worked with kids for 20 years. I can tell you this, kids love structure. They push back on it, but they love it because you only create structure, rules, boundaries, and guidelines for people that you love. As caregivers, our number one job is to keep a child safe. And you can tell them that. I tell my daughter that all the time because you only keep safe what you love. If you don't love something, you're not putting that time and energy and investment in keeping them safe. Please set boundaries. Kids told me all the time, oh, I bet they would say, oh, well, I'm going to do this. And I said, oh, my kid could never do that. That's just not going to happen. And they'd go, wow, I bet you're a really good mom. Create this atmosphere of love, of trust, of support. And don't think they trust you just because you're the adult. It is your responsibility, it is our responsibility to earn their trust. I have a few seconds left, and in that time, I'd really like to leave you with this poem because it makes me think about what we give to the kids in our circle. And something also that the author, the poet Toni Morrison, said it was such a critical question that really shifted how I parent and how I exist and coexist with the kids I work with. So, this is the first one. Ask yourself this question. When the child in your life enters the room, does your face light up? Are you in your phone? Are you in your own world? Or does your face reflect joy when you see them? Because if it doesn't work on that, because I assure you that drug dealer, that trafficker, that gang member, their face lights up with joy. Lastly, this very brief poem by Mother Teresa. It's called You Will Teach Them to Fly. You will teach them to fly, but they will not fly your flight. You will teach them to dream, but they will not dream your dream. You will teach them to live, but they will not live your life. Nevertheless, in every flight, in every life, in every dream, the print of the way you taught them will always remain. The foundation you give, no matter what they do, that foundation will remain. Let's be conscious of how we exist in the world of the children that we care for, because together we can fight this and make a big shift. And if we prevent one child from being trafficked, we have done an amazing job. Thank you all so much for your time. I greatly appreciate being here, and I'm so excited to continue learning from the other presenters.
Well, as you can see, Kendra, you're getting love and hand claps and everything else. And we're just so grateful that you were able to give us the perspective of all of our roles in our kids and our children and our grandkids and our nieces and nephews and the importance we play in their lives. I'm hoping that my friend Happy Medina is around because he is up next. Happy, are you with us?
Yes,
Well,
I am.
okay, well, I'm just going to tell a little bit about you. Our next presenter is Happy Medina, founder of Human Trafficking Now, LLC. Happy retired in December of 2022 from the Anaheim Police Department after 28 years of service. He was assigned as an investigator to the Orange County Human Trafficking Task Force from November 2014 to his retirement. During his tenure on the task force, he has provided over 750 hours of human trafficking training throughout the state of California. He has testified as a human trafficking expert in Orange County Superior Court on numerous occasions. He now provides advanced training and instruction to law enforcement officers, law enforcement officer personnel, as well as one-day training for NGOs, victims advocates, social workers, and more. Happy, we're looking forward eagerly to hearing what you will share about law enforcement and the justice perspective and how you see this problem of online grooming. And so please take it away.
All right, well, thank you so much for having me here. I've been had the opportunities to speak on many panels and to, if not hundreds of actually thousands of folks related to human trafficking. What I do want to say is I'm probably going to be the pessimist in the group. I'm probably not going to get a lot of heart emojis at the end of my 15 minutes, but I'll take that. What you're going to get from me is an interesting perspective in regards to law enforcement, the law enforcement component of the collaborative. And with that being said, though, I do want to let everybody know I've worked with social workers, district deputy district attorneys, advocates of all kinds. When I was on the Orange County Human Trafficking Task Force, one of the things that made us successful was the fact that we were a collaborative, one mission focused group, and it continues to be that even after my retirement. When I got into human trafficking, I honestly didn't know anything about it. Everything I knew about human trafficking was what I saw on TV or from the movie Taken. I thought I was going to maybe apply for the position and do 2 years and then maybe promote and move on with my career. I ended up staying for 8.5 years and retired out of it because I found that human trafficking was not just a job, it was more of a passion for me. So my perspective is a little bit unique. And I think what I want to share with you is this, how important it is that law enforcement receive your support and encouragement, and especially in your local agencies. I've had the opportunity to train across the state and even across the nation, mostly to law enforcement. And here's what I want to share with you. And I know it's going to sound a little bit on the pessimistic side, but I don't think of myself as a pessimist, more as a realist. When we talk about human trafficking, it is in the last 10 years kind of the flavor of the month. And what I mean by that is it seems like we go through seasons in law enforcement in our culture where something becomes a topic and people just embrace it and run away with it. And this is one of those topics. Human trafficking has been around since the dawn of man. If you happen to be a Bible reader like I am, prostitution is introduced in the very first book of the Bible in Genesis. And not to negate what the optimism by the other speakers, but yeah, human trafficking is not going away. It's not going to be abolished. It's not going to end any day. It's been around for a couple thousand years. And as long as mostly men have an appetite for sex and are willing to pay for it, it's just not going to go away because we know that the root of all evil is money. The last statistics I heard Natalie's statistics, but the last ones that I usually share with people is it's $150 billion industry across the world. 2/3 of it is related to commercialized sex trade, which is prostitution. In America, the economic return on human trafficking in regards to commercialized sex trade is only second to narcotics. Narcotics, the last stats that I saw, generate about $33 billion in the US, opposed to $32 billion in human trafficking in regards to sex trade. My expertise is 99% related to prostitution and the proliferation of people, and mostly men, promoting and victimizing women and young girls into prostitution. Most of you may already know this, and I'm not really a stat person, but just as a reminder, the average age of a girl entering the prostitution is 12 to 14 years of age. The youngest girl that I ever had, one of my cases, the victim was 13 years of age. And that got trumped a couple years after I retired to the youngest one in Orange County. Last I heard was 11 years of age. So what I want to tell you this is I believe and very much support awareness and education, and many of you are a part of that. However, I want to just share this with you for food for thought. Awareness and education only go so far. All 50 plus of you, or how many the total number is that are listening to my voice right now, you're already aware that human trafficking is an issue. So we box. Many of you on your own, and you're here for further education on how you can either prevent it or be part of a campaign to minimize the amount of victims that are currently being generated. I also agree with Natalie and I usually compare this to domestic violence. I think she said something, she gave a statistic of how many cases were reported. Whatever that number is, you could probably triple it, and because just like domestic violence, we all know that maybe 1/3 or 1/4 of cases are actually reported. So here's my pitch to you that I want you to consider. And this is something that I'm speaking to my friends in the collaborative model. They all, at first, were hesitant to agree upon, but when they realized that my motives were pure, they all had to admit that law enforcement is the tip of the spear when it comes to human trafficking. Without law enforcement actively involved in these investigations, there are no victims to counsel. There are no victims to supply resources. The amount of the numbers that are generated in terms of our referrals to social services, the juvenile justice system, to advocates, and to those nonprofit organizations are staggering. They probably make up, I'm just going to conservatively say, 80% of the people that come forward. In other words, when law enforcement actively investigates these crimes and these crimes, we are then providing our victims and referring them to all of these wonderful resources out there. Unfortunately, law enforcement as a whole does not receive adequate training in regards to human trafficking. So why am I bringing this up? So we mentioned NCMEC earlier, and we mentioned all of the resources out there that if you're a victim of human trafficking, or if you think human trafficking, you've identified a person of human trafficking, whether it be a family member or somebody randomly that you come across, and because of your awareness and education, you've identified some of the signs that may lead you to believe that that person is a victim of human trafficking, that either you or you convince that person to call NCMEC or one of the hotlines. What NCMEC does is then they take an assessment of that person. And if the person at the other end of that line, the NCMEC volunteer, is really good at their job, they're going to ask all the right questions, they're going to receive all the right information. And then what they're going to do is they're going to identify what state, what county, what city is this victim potentially being victimized in. And then they're going to send via email or via a direct communication. They're going to contact that agency directly and filter it down to a detective or an investigator that works human trafficking. In the state of California, I'm going to tell you right now that over the tens of thousands of law enforcement officers that are currently sworn in the state of California, I would guesstimate that less than 5% are trained on human trafficking. So let's say you do all the right things, you pass along that information, it gets filtered down to a law enforcement agency, and that person has never, ever taken a human trafficking report, doesn't know the signs, doesn't know the laws, doesn't know how to appropriate the law accordingly. And more importantly, even if they did, they don't have the resources, or they don't have what we have in Orange County, which is an active task force that will go out there and actively work a case. And what happens is that tip just gets put aside because they either don't have the resources or they don't have the knowledge or the expertise in how to do it. Let me give you another example. Let's say a murder occurred. Everybody knows what a murder is. Everybody knows what a homicide is. And your local agency has never investigated a homicide in their life because they only get one a year. What do you think the chances are that they're going to be able to investigate that case fully and bring someone to justice, or to even be able to file a case with the district attorney's office that the district attorney can take and file formal charges on a named suspect? So my passion in the last 8.5 years, and even 2 years after I retired, was to continue training law enforcement officers. Because at the end of the day, if we really want to rescue victims, law enforcement has the tools and the laws available to them to actually conduct investigations and bring the perpetrators of these very hellacious crimes to justice and to hold them accountable. Now, if I don't want anyone to think that all I'm talking about is putting handcuffs on someone and putting them in jail for a long amount of time. Here's what I want you to get. When I was an investigator, and I did this dozens of times over my career, if I can arrest one person who is victimizing or is victimized a young girl or a woman, put her out on the street, having herself, the most intimate part of herself, her body, 12 to 15 times a day, 7 times a week, regardless if they're sick or healthy or on their period. If I can arrest that one perpetrator, we can't quantify this, we can't measure this. If I put that human trafficker in jail for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, think of all the girls. When you talk about prevention, think of all the victims we have saved. Now, we can't quantify that. We don't know. We can't put a number on it. But I'm telling you that the biggest reward that I had out of human trafficking was not only saving that initial victim, but was the reality that I may have prevented your daughter, your granddaughter, your niece, your nephew, your son, your teenager, your adult daughter from being victimized. And that, I can tell you, is extremely rewarding and satisfying. And I hope, someday on the other side of this life, to come in contact with potential victims that were protected because of our actions. So, again, I don't want to dismiss or minimize all the efforts of all the folks, and even on this panel, that are advocating and are providing seminars and awareness and education. If I had anything to tell you in my last 2 minutes, is this: you can only control and protect what you can control. Kind of like going along, I think what Kendra was saying, is that our first objective and our first focus of attention needs to be on what we control in our immediate influence, which is our family and our loved ones. I have 4 daughters, so you can imagine the amount of filters and feeling of protectiveness that I was constantly inputting in them and having those conversations. Outside of that, I think that the work we're doing in human trafficking is amazing right now. It's amazing in the country. I have strong opinions about certain things. I have strong opinions about kind of people just jumping on the bandwagon to get that do-good feeling. But I do believe that where we're most effective is in our 4 walls at home and protecting the people that we love. Outside of that, of course, we can't ignore that, and we need to do what we can to reach them and to educate them. But I just want to encourage you that to be supportive as much as you can of your local law enforcement agencies, and to provide all the support you can to them and encourage them to receive the training, whether it be from me or I don't care where they receive it from, so that they can actually investigate these cases. So when victims actually do reach out and say, I need help, I'm being victimized, or when a parent calls in and says, hey, my daughter, we had this call of someone in the central, the US, call us one night and say, my daughter is being victimized. I'm sure that she's being trafficked. And we have my 2-year-old grandson is with them. We went out and we found her and we rescued her and we rescued her son and we brought her perpetrator to justice. And we were so grateful that we had the support of the community, that we had the support of our department, and that we had all the resources. And we had all the resources outside of the law enforcement community, church involvement, the community members, social workers, advocates, the judicial system, and also deputy district attorneys, that we all work together to save our victims and to also bring to justice those that have perpetrated them, abused them, victimized them, exploited them, and with the hopes that they will never do that to anyone else again.
Well, thank you, Happy. I'm absolutely moved. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm not often without words, but I am this time. I think I think I never considered the lack of training as being something that a citizen or a resident of a community could do. So consider yourself having 80 or so odd many more people who are on our call tonight. Hopefully we'll be advocates for our law enforcement people to receive the appropriate training. And despite what you said, you're getting all kinds of hearts and hand claps and things, because that was an amazingly compelling presentation. And I thank you personally, and I know everyone else on the call feels the same way. So thank you for that.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
That's absolutely our pleasure. So our final presenter is Jenna McKaye. Jenna, a human trafficking survivor, founded the Jenna McKaye Foundation in 2016 to engage in a broader advocacy training model and provide equine therapy to sex trafficking victims and high-risk youth. She has written various articles for blogs and newspapers and consulted on the award-winning documentary Surviving Sex Trafficking. She is on the team with Global Strategic Operatives with the UN and continues to work with the Orange County Human Trafficking Task Force and the New Jersey Coalition Against Human Trafficking. Jenna worked with Senator Shannon Grove on legislation SB 14 that many of us are familiar with, which passed in 2023 to make trafficking of a minor a serious felony and a strikable offense in the state of California. She also helped pass SB 1414, which makes buying a minor 15 and under for sex a felony. One wonders why that was not a felony before. In July of 2025, she worked with Assembly Member Maggie Krell and the California Survivor Coalition to pass AB 379 to include 16 and 17-year-olds in that legislation. Jenna's award-winning book, Grit and Grace, an unforgettable memoir of the human spirit, was published in October of 2024 and has garnered great recognition. Welcome, Jenna. Let me begin.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. We're so thrilled you're here. Let me begin by asking you what motivated you to take your experience as a survivor and to turn to education, prevention, and advocacy.
That's just it, surviving this crime. And it wasn't like I just came out of it and just started doing this work, which I actually think is really important for a victim to take time to heal and discover what they want before joining this field. But I had survived these crimes and I had tried to move on with my life. And it was in a hospital in Virginia. I was married to a Marine. I had a son, and I came out with what happened to me 6 years before in Southern California in Riverside County. And it was there that I found out that what I was a survivor of was called human trafficking, and that my trauma was complex PTSD. And as I was healing and working through that, I tried to move forward with my life, but I just wanted to do something with what had happened to me and help girls like me in whatever best way I could serve.
So are there resources that you wish had been available to you from your school, medical practitioners, law enforcement, or other community providers earlier in your recovery journey than you experienced?
Yeah, so to preface, I had really great experiences with professionals, whether that was a teacher, a law enforcement officer, a doctor, a nurse, that did help me. But I also had negative experiences, and those really halted me from getting the help that I needed or getting directed to services and resources that essentially could have gotten me out of the situation that I was in. But also, with my school, I was not somebody that was necessarily high risk or somebody you might picture to become a victim. I had two parents at home. My dad was a farmer, my mom was a teacher. I had two big sisters, and they were both in college by the time I started training to volleyball to get a scholarship and follow one of my big sisters and play in college. And I ended up being lured out of high school uh, by somebody that went to the same high school as me. He wasn't already a trafficker. This is something that he learned and was trafficked right there in my community. And um, when I'll share a couple of quick scenarios just to give an idea. When I went to an urgent care, when I got away from my trafficker, I had a lot of signs of somebody that not just been trafficked, but somebody that had been through serious trauma. I was very skinny. My hair was falling out in clumps. I had a branding from my trafficker at various stages of bruising. I was acting erratic, and I really wanted to get help. I really wanted somebody to do something for me, but I really didn't know what to say or what to do. And my thought process was, what's going to happen to me if I say this thing? Am I going to be okay? What are the professionals in the room going to do? And all the doctors and nurses were talking around me, and nobody was talking to me. What I needed in that moment was for somebody to say, Jenna, what happened to you? And then to follow that up with educating me. This is what law enforcement will do. This is what the court system will do. These are the victim advocates and social workers we have available to you. If somebody said, hey, kid, you may not go play volleyball at Long Beach State as planned, but you can go play junior college and we'll help you do that, I would have been like, sign me up, because I just wanted to go back to the life I had before this person came in and interrupted it. And then, 6 years later, when I had a breakdown and came out with what had happened to me, when I was coming out with my trauma, I wasn't a little girl with a teddy bear that you wanted to pick up and hold. I was 18 years old. Again, I was angry, abused, scared, Jenna. And I had a case manager, and I would walk into his office every day and I would cuss and I would yell. And he had all these degrees all over his wall, and I would roll my eyes and I'd say, you don't know how bad it was. You don't know what it was like for me. There's nothing you can do for me. I'm going to lose my husband and my son, and I'm going to be in this place the rest of my life. Just really setting him up for success. And every day I went in there and I threw this temper tantrum essentially, but I was watching him, and I was watching him very carefully because I was looking for any sign that he was judging me. Because if he was judging me, he definitely wasn't going to help me. My wall was going to go right up. But all I ever saw from him, from his body language, his facial expressions, um, the words that he very carefully chose to speak to me, was that he not just cared about me as a client, but he cared about me as a human being. And he wanted me to be well, and he wanted me to work through my trauma and be okay and live a full life. And so eventually when he said, Jenna, do you want to make a plan with me? I did want to make a plan with him. And I not only trusted him, I respected him. And recognizing that the way I was behaving was a result of my trauma and the real pain that I was experiencing from bringing it all up, allowed me to open up to him, because no victim wants to be judged for the crimes that were committed against them.
Absolutely. So have you seen an improvement in the awareness? Well, obviously awareness, I think that you would say there would be much greater awareness, but in the training and response that you see available to survivors now?
Yeah, just for me being in this work over the last 10 years, I do think there's still a lot of sensationalism. Happy mentioned it can be a hot topic word, so people want to jump on board and talk about human trafficking, and it's this scary thing, and it is this buzzword, but it's not a buzzword. It's somebody's real trauma and pain, and it needs to be taken seriously. And it's not for people to gain their own pats on the back for. It's for people to show up in communities in real effective ways so that a victim gets the services and resources that they need. But I have worked with so many people around the country that genuinely care and really are learning what it means to be truly trauma informed and understanding what each victim needs in the moment so that go forward and live a successful life.
Are you seeing any other areas that you could identify as still being needed to be done for people who are, who are coming out of this horrific situation?
I mean, there's always going to be, I mean, things that are needed and improved on. There's if we go out and train all the hospital staff and all the law enforcement and all the communities, well, then more people are going to be identifying victims, but then we need a place for them to go. So then we need safe houses, and we need those to be ran by people that know how to work with victims. And so there's always going to be things, but I think there is there's been an extreme positive shift in the right direction. But it like any movement, a movement takes time.
So we often hear the questions such as, why didn't she just leave? Right? We've all heard that as domestic violence victims, trafficking victims. Why? It's such an easy question. Why didn't they just leave? You've traveled a difficult road from trauma to recovery and healing. What can you share with us about what the healing journey can look like?
Well, I'll just touch on that. Why didn't she just leave real quick? Because it just stirs me up. I remember when I first started sharing my story, I received that question a lot, and I would do my best to be polite and answer it and explain it the best I could. But then I would get in my car and cry and feel really frustrated. And as I talked to my therapist about it, what I recognized was, as the survivor of the crime, I wasn't hearing, why didn't you? Why didn't you just call the police? Why didn't you just call your mom and dad? I heard, you should have. You should have called the police. You should have called 911. You should have ran away. You should have left that apartment. And I felt like I had to defend myself for surviving a crime that was committed against me. Right. And explain it and explain the psychological hold that my trafficker had on me. And I also did leave. I did get away and rebuild my life. Why didn't I leave sooner? That's something that some people may not understand unless they experience it. And for that, I'm glad that they wouldn't understand it because, I remember my trafficker opening up the front door to our apartment that he was selling me out of. And he said, leave, Jenna. If you want out so bad, go. And I started to walk out and then I stopped. And I went, where? And I did have a loving family that was worried about me and wanting me to be home. But that just shows his level of manipulation and making me believe that he was all I had and I had nowhere to go. But for me, the healing journey, I won't share my story without talking about the healing journey because I know that I'm labeled as a human trafficking survivor, but that's not all I am. It is a crime that happened to me. It did interrupt my life in an extreme way. It is something that I still have physical back pain from one of the nights I was sold. I still have psychological trauma that I work through and will work through the rest of my life. But I'm also a happy person. I'm also Christian's mom. I'm a full person outside of this. I'm not just a human trafficking survivor. And the healing work is really important to me because for quite a while, it did feel like a burden, like, oh, this is something that I have to do and it's not fair. And it was easy to stay in the victim mindset. But my shift has changed to I get to heal from this. I don't have to be bitter and angry anymore. I don't have to live with nightmares and the signs of PTSD. I can live a full and happy life and be at peace. And through that, I did have to do the work. It didn't just come to me. I spent 5 years with my last therapist every week. I'm in a recovery program. I've gone on 4 wilderness trips out into the wild. Climbing mountains and doing different kinds of therapies in the wilderness. I went to an ashram and learned how to meditate for monks. And these are all practices that I do, not so I can show up in my personal life and be the best I can be and be the best mom I can be to Christian, but so I can show up and do this work effectively. There's no way that I would be going around the country the last 10 years and sharing my story. I may be able to do that, but I wouldn't be able to go into my bed and sleep a good night after reliving all my trauma without the healing work. I now can sleep in peace and not be triggered from it.
Well, agreed. You more than deserve peace, and as we all do. But we've heard about your many accomplishments from your biography, but your courage and determination led you to create to the creation of a life filled with positivity, purpose, service, and possibility. What are your most what are your most treasured accomplishments that you can share with us?
Well, the healing work always is at the forefront. That's something I'm most proud of. If I quit this work and I moved to Montana and rode a horse every day and never talked about it again, I could still live in a fulfilled space that I'm showing up as my best self, that I'm not defined by this. But I have a son who's now 15 and he's mostly been raised just by me, and he's been with me. I gave birth to him 4 years after I got out of my situation. So he's been with me through a lot of this journey. Um, and I did mention, there is a film being made about my story, and why that's important to me is, I was just on a panel at Sundance and we were talking, so many movies about trafficking are shared from the perspective of the rescuer. And, I like the Taken movies. I like watching Liam Neeson, but I don't watch those for education on trafficking. And, in 2009, when the first Taken movie came out, my mom and dad called me and said, Jenna, you cannot travel. You can't travel alone. There's this thing called trafficking. And they were so concerned. Well, I had already been trafficked 3 years before that in my community. So it's important to show the reality of what, even though my story may be different from other trafficking survivors, it's not just showing the traumas that happened to me, but it's also showing to live a full life after this trauma, and what it can really look like and what the reality is. The trafficking was horrible, but also going through a divorce and being a single mom, living in a cockroach apartment, working 2 to 3 jobs just after getting out of the psych ward for coming out with my trafficking, that was really hard too. And we all go through hardships and traumas and heartbreak in life, and we may have different experiences, but what we relate on is the pain. The pain inside feels the same, but also the healing inside feels the same. And we learn from each other's stories. And that's the goal of doing this project. It's not to say, oh, this movie and it's about human trafficking. It's to say, here's a human story and we can all connect on it and we can all learn from it and we can do better with it.
Well, we just heard about the film tonight. When will it be? Did it premiere at Sundance this year?
It's not done yet. We're just finished the script and it'll go into
Okay.
casting, and so it'll be out there when you'll hear about it at some point as we go through the process.
All right. Well, please keep us informed as you move through the process. And I can only thank you from the bottom of my heart for your courage and dedication to make a wonderful life for yourself, and more importantly, to share the journey that you've been on, and the tenacity that you showed to build, a new future. We so appreciate hearing about everything you've accomplished.
Thank you so much for having me.
Each of our presenters has shown us the insidiousness of human trafficking, that it requires a multi-pronged action to combat. They explored similar truths, that we're stronger together and that we need to be active witnesses, that it's our duty to educate ourselves and to use that knowledge to encourage those in our sphere of influence to take action. It's time to tell the traffickers and their customers, enough. So our guests have agreed, sorry, I have my timer on. Our guests have agreed to take a few questions. So Bonnie and Carrie, do we have any questions from the chat?
Not yet, but I bet we'll have some coming right now.
I did see one question. Somebody asked Happy wanted to know if you traveled to do your training.
Yes, I mean, I'm completely open to that. I put my email on there. Just reach out to me, and I would be honored to share what I know about human trafficking with anybody who listens.
Perfect. Thank you, Happy.
And I think we could probably undertake for the addresses that we have. We certainly will ask our panelists for their permission to include their emails in our resources. But you can always reach out to one of those of us from the STAT group, and we will connect with those folks if you want to get in touch with them. So anything else in the chat?
I don't see anything. Do you, Bonnie?
Sound like that's a no. So
Yeah, it was a no. Sorry.
Okay, so I do have one last question for everyone of our panelists. If you had to have us take away one thing from this evening, what would it be? So maybe jump, Happy, what would your one thing you would want us to take away? I think I know what you might say, but I'd love to hear it from you.
Oh, wow. That's a tough one. I guess just off the cuff, I would say that I would really encourage everyone, as dismaying as it may sound, we have to live in the reality of the present time. This with AI and the advancement and all the good things that the internet brings, it also brings a lot of evil to the world. And it just can seem so overwhelming at times. It's just too overwhelming. So again, I would just go back to the basics, is that you can only control what you can control. And what I mean is your sphere of influence. I would recommend everyone to just take care of their family, take care of their sons and daughters, be involved in their lives, be attentive. I don't have social media at all. Good luck finding me. You're not going to find me except maybe on LinkedIn. And that's only because I was pressured into doing that. And the availability of people invading your personal space in your home is incredible. And I think that's where our main emphasis needs to be.
Thanks. How about you, Natalie? What would your one takeaway you would want us to remember from your conversation with us tonight?
It really takes all of us just doing our part in what we can do. I definitely agree with Happy that it starts at home, and having intentional, consistent conversations with children who have your influence, whether it's as a parent, grandparent, aunt, uncle, teacher. I think that having those intentional conversations is really key to keep that line of communication open.
Thanks. And Kendra, what would you say if you could give us one last piece of wisdom to remember this evening by?
Mine would be along the lines of everyone else and what I presented on. And so I sum it up like this: educate, empower, and invest. So educate yourself. Don't ever stop learning. Read, come to events like this. These things are important. Join your local human trafficking task force, because when you're educated, you're empowered with the knowledge. Therefore, you can invest it in others. Talk to your friends. Just like when we talk about something great on sale, go spread the word about this. Talk to the children in your lives. And it doesn't have to be the kid just in your family. Who are your neighbors? Do you support the single mom in your community? Go to her kids' game if you can. Watch their kids' social media and comment. So just educate yourself, empower yourself, and just invest. Happy is right. This is not going away. It's just that's the reality. But what if we can prevent, like I said, if we prevent one child, two child, 10 children, we have made a difference. Let's really focus on prevention. And also, I got one more thing, I'm sorry. When it's time to vote, read. Read who your politicians are, the judges, local judges. What is their view on trafficking? And how can you support that? We can't do anything about trafficking if we don't have the legal aspect. So do it, and it again, well, I didn't think about that. It all falls under educating, empowering, and invest. So that would be mine. And thank you so much for this evening.
And last but certainly not least, Jenna, what would you want us to take away from tonight?
All the things are important: to go and get trained, to educate yourself, to have that conversation at home with your kids. But I'd say, when I was a victim, I was working normal jobs during the day, and I remember just not being able to speak for myself and ask for help, but I would almost stare into people's eyes like, can you see me? Can you see the pain I'm going through? I have these big red puffy eyes. I'm working at this nice boutique, but tonight I'm going to go home and be raped. Can you please do something for me? And to show that it really starts with that basic human kindness. That's where the build the trust. I remember the lady I worked for, she'd often asked if I was okay. She could tell something was wrong, but what I really needed her to ask is if I was safe. And then to follow that up with, Jenna, if you need support and resources, I can help get that to you. And there is a community that will care and help you. So to educate them, but it starts with that basic human kindness.
Well, I know that I don't speak only for myself, but for everyone on the call tonight. I want to thank Natalie, Kendra, Happy, and Jenna. We very much appreciate your sharing your passion, experience, and expertise with us, and we're so grateful for what you've taught us. It's now my pleasure to introduce Terry Rose, who's going to share some exciting news. Terry?
Well, before I do that, I want to just echo what Susan just said. I mean, you were all moving, powerful, passionate, and compelling. And and this has been one of the best virtual webinars I've ever been to in my life, and I do a lot of them. So thank you all for being here. I just totally admire every one of you, and you totally inspire me to do more. So that being said, for the Soroptimists, we know what this is, but I'm going to talk about the Big Goal Accelerator Awards. And as a member of Soroptimist International of the Americas, our goal is to improve the lives of 500,000 women and girls by 2031. And we do have two signature programs that help us do that. The Live Your Dream Awards, which is a cash grant given to a woman who is the financial head of her household and in some kind of educational pursuit, and Dream It Be It, which is more of a mentoring program for younger women. Now, what we've added, though, is the Big Goal Accelerator Awards. And what they are is, again, something that is Soroptimist led, that has to do with improving the lives of women and girls, and that has an educational component to them. So for us, Soroptimists Together Against Trafficking 2, we can give scholarships. So that is what we do, and we give them to not women who are financial head of their households, but what we do is give them to survivors of human trafficking who, again, are in some kind of educational pursuit, whether it's an undergraduate school, a vocational or a trade school, or even a certification program like a GED. So what we did last year was we were only we were actually only 4 different communities, Orange County, Los Angeles County, Ventura County, and Riverside County, but we've grown now. But last year we gave 4 of these awards or scholarships, if you want to call them that, but 4 of these awards to applicants. This year we're going to be giving at least 1 award for each of our counties. So that's LA, Orange County, Riverside, San Bernardino, and Ventura. And how do the applicants apply? Well, we will have an application that they will fill out, and they will also have to include a personal statement. Those applications will be due by May 15th, and we will sometime in June have another virtual program to award those applicants their award. So if you're interested, or if you know anyone who is a survivor of human trafficking and in some kind of an educational journey, please contact either myself or Demetra. Our contact information is terrylaurenrose@gmail.com, and Demetra's is dbostis75@icloud.com. So again, we are a coalition of Soroptimist International of the Americas clubs from these 5 counties that are working together as one to help combat human trafficking in Southern California. And with that, unless you have questions, which you could put in the chat and I can answer them later, I will turn it back over to Dawn so that we stay supportive of the time that you've been spending with us.
So, gosh, there's so much I want to say, but I really do want to wrap this up. I do want we are a coalition, and how we do what we do is by having members. We have people that are supporters, and they've joined our steering committee from different Soroptimist groups. And every speaker that we give an honorarium to, and then you've just heard about the grants. So if you want to join our coalition so that we can promote what you're doing and you can learn about other ideas from other people, we'd love to have you join us. And you just need to go to our Soroptimist Together Against Trafficking.org website, and you will get the information about how to be part of our coalition. We will have a roundtable in September where we'll really feature different types of activities that Soroptimists are doing from around the country. This will be our second one, and we did one last September and had lots of wonderful presentations that came from literally around the country. And I know we're all moved. We've all heard just some really wonderful speeches and talks, and I think we're very inspired. Thank you to all of our speakers once again. Just a last thing, we do have a couple of upcoming events that we want to promote, and that is Ensure Justice at Vanguard University is March 6th. And you will see announcements of all the different kinds of things that Soroptimists are involved in. If we're supporting another organization or whatever from our different counties, you'll see that on our website. So make that your friend and go to that. We're really grateful that you came tonight. I know we have a headquarters staff member here from our Soroptimist headquarters, and we have governors from other regions, and we're just so appreciative of all of you. Each of you are really important, no matter what your title is. Your title is now advocate and ambassador for issues related to human trafficking. I want to end with a quote from the event that Kendra actually talked about, No More, Do Better. And it's a quote from Martha Trujillo, who is a survivor who was trafficked at age 10 into a gang. And, I won't tell her story, but I do want to tell her challenge, because at the end, our theme was power. And at the end, she talked to the kids and gave them a challenge about their power. And then she challenged adults about our power. And most of us, I think, are adults on this call. So she said, adults, your words have power. Your labels have power. And most importantly, your silence has power. And that just really resonated with me. So I challenge us to each use our power and share what we learned tonight. This is not someone else's problem. It's ours. I heard that quote tonight. So thank you all for coming. Please stay connected to us. Join us if you will. And thank you for making this an important event for you tonight. So go away. We've had 82 people here, and it's just lovely that you joined us. Thank you.